What is going on, guys? Welcome back to my story time. I hope you guys have enjoyed and, got some fun issues today. My buddy Jack over there. Let me see if he wants to join us. You want to join us, bud? This is Jack. If you guys didn't know Jack, he's my best friend. He likes to hang out and chill. So basically, today's video is gonna be about, doing crazy stuff and getting in jail. You guys heard some stuff I did and how I got arrested and stuff. Now, we'll talk about the five worst times of, actually being arrested. I'm gonna have to put him down. He's kind of annoying. I love him, but he doesn't want to go now. He's like, no. But anyways, then on to the first one. You know what I mean? This is for all you dum-dums who are ever locked up. These are gonna be some stories. This might sound pretty normal to some of you, but some of you is gonna be like, whoa, that's what it's like. But these are 5 different stories where I'll talk about the actual arrest and the jail experience. It's all combined to get a complete score on basic things off the arrest plus, the situation in jail and stuff like that. None of these were really bad. I was never ever beat up or assaulted, or except for maybe by the police officers and stuff. Not to say they weren't doing their job, but I was never when you see those jail cells, never attacked or anything crazy. I had a couple altercations where we had some words, but nothing through fists because there are rules depending on the situation, and we'll go over that maybe if we have time, depending on how long these videos go. But with that, the first one would be actually it's gonna be my first time as an adult being locked up. First off, I'm not including any juvenile. I was in, so that's why the last ones won't be in it, because those happened when I was in, 16. So I went to juvie and stuff like that, and it was like overnighters. And juvie is nothing, compared to adult. Juvie's nothing. I've been to rehab, and rehab I was at when I was 15. It was worse than when I went to juvie. That's how bad juvie is. Juvie's nothing. It's like daycare. But, county's a bit different. So, first off, I'll tell you, I've probably been arrested about, over 20 times in 2 different counties here in Arizona, as well as I've been arrested in Mexico. I was in jail for, a while. I'm not going to leave that on here. I'll leave that for a separate story. Actually, it is on here. It's the second story, so I guess you will get to hear that one. But, first off, let's start off with my first time in jail. So, this is a crazy story because I literally was I was at a party right in one city, and the party got broken up, and I'd actually got a ticket for minor consumption. One of my friends who was actually arrested at that party for a warrant. So me and my buddy, we left and let us go, and I went and picked up some herb, and we were blazing in the parking lot. A cop drove by and pulled back around, and we got out of the car because we seen him come. We knew he was coming back, so we left everything in the car and locked the doors. Cops comes back, talks to us for a minute. He knows we're trespassing, whatever, because we were just blazing a blunt. We were gonna bounce after we were done in some apartments. We didn't have our ID. I had my ID, but my friend didn't have his ID, so he had to go back to his car to get it. And when he went back, cops saw the beer on the seat. We were both under 21. You guys know how it goes. Basically, from that point, the cop opened up, and then they found 2.5 ounces. Now, this is going to be the funny part to you guys, because I see a lot of people talk about, these racial issues on here and stuff. But I'll tell you guys straight up, my boy was black, okay? And I'm white. Guess who went to jail? Me. Guess who got to drive away? My friend. So I don't know where that... In my life, I've never experienced that, because I've always been the one to go to jail. My black homies usually went home. That's the funny part. So I don't know how that goes, if it's a catch-22, but... I have, and you'll hear another story where I'm gonna give you a little bit racial for me being white, So anyways, so I went to jail, and the funny part is that I had no shirt on, no shoes. So I went into jail with no shoes and no shirt on, because I don't even remember what happened. It was a crazy night. I was a crazy kid. So I'm in jail, and I'm hearing all this crazy thing, and I look to my right, and my boy at the party ended up being sitting in there too. So it was just it was crazy. But yeah, the whole situation being bad, obviously, is my friend got to go home that night. I had to go to jail. I see another friend, and he got stuck in jail, and I ended up going home. because, you know, mine was my first charge, and, you know, the cops didn't want me doing it. My boy was on probation, so a bit different. So anyways, you know, and I got out and all that. We'll move on to the next one. This is the next worst. Mexico. Man, Mexico. Bro, I was rapping on top of a building with like the Bud Light girls dancing behind me. Everything was popping. And I left the club with these girls, and then I came back, and the bouncer wouldn't let me in. So I told him, you know, F you. Obviously, you don't do that in another country when you're drunk. I was 18 again, and I got arrested. And I was in jail in Mexico with no money. This is a crazy story, bro. I had nothing. I had my boy. He had $10. He had to leave. So basically, he had to leave, go past with the little bit he had, call my mom. My mom gave him some money, and then, you know, and then while they're figuring out how to get me out of jail, I'm sitting in there. You know, they don't give you food in Mexican jail. You have to have somebody bring it to you. So if you don't have someone to bring you food, you don't get it. So luckily, you know, they let you keep all your stuff. I traded my shoes to another Mexican dude and got some different shoes. And he actually, then his wife brought food, and then he would give me food every single time she would come and give him food. That was like the trade-off. Plus, I got a pair of shoes, and he gave me $10 towards my, you know, thing. And basically, what happened is, you know, finally my mom, and I was in there for like almost 2 days. You know, they give you cigarettes, which is crazy. They don't give you food, but they give you cigarettes. The guards will come by and bring you cigarettes. And basically, what happened next is my mom called some people that lived in Mexico. They actually were like Americans who retired and went there and started the scuba diving. They actually came, bailed me out, took me home, let me stay. My mom came down the next day and then picked me back up. So it was just crazy. I never knew when I was going to get out. I don't know how I was going to get out, and somehow all this stuff happened, and, you know, I got out. You know, sure enough, after I got out, I talked to a paper that was outside, that was East Valley Tribune here in Arizona, and it actually went to my school district, and I had actually finished school early. I'd gone back after all this crazy stuff, like with the stories I told you earlier. I'd done all this stuff, got off probation and whatnot, and then I went to Mexico and did this, and lost my scholarship, you know, and then kind of put me on a different path. Then, you know, I don't look bad on that one, but definitely one of those ones you should think about. So, you know, that's another story. You know, we're cutting it a little close on time here because I got you know, memory on my camera. So we're gonna have to come back to the next video for the next 3. What is going down? Yeah, so I'm back again. Sorry about that one. So basically, we'll continue off where I left off on these stories here. So basically, something that I kind of threw out of that Mexican thing was also the water. They don't give you water in there. They give you a canteen that you pass around. You can't really drink out of the water spigot because it's literally at the very end of where you sit down, where you take a poop, like where the tip of your butt crack is. There's like a little thing. I think it's more for cleaning your butt, but no, I don't think ever uses it. But yeah, that's what there is. There's not a sink or anywhere to wash your hands. It's pretty disgusting. And they said that was the new jail. And there was no like you slept on like cardboard. That was the mattresses they had in there. There's like slabs of cardboard on a metal mat. So yeah, it's pretty intense. And it's like a room with like 20 people in it. So pretty intense. And I think that was actually my first time in jail as an adult before I came back and got arrested for that one that was before. But moving on to the next one. This one is kind of where I was kind of leaving off in the last part of this video, was talk about the profile part. Well, basically for a portion of my life, I lived in some, you know, rough neighborhoods. And this is actually fast forwarded a bit. I've been in some of these stories that I'll tell after this actually happened before this one, but this is at number 3. Because it's not really worse than the other 2, because the other 2 were my longest stays. I've never stayed in prison. That's one thing I've never done, is gone to prison. So, you know, I'm not a felon. I've been very fortunate to, you know, be able to still maintain on my rights. I can still buy a gun and all that great stuff. So, moving on to the next one, which is kind of funny when I tell you all these stories, like what you can get away with, get arrested for, and still be able to have your rights. Well, it just matters if you take care of your business. That shows, like I said in some of my stuff, it's about what choices you make after the thing happens, because you can make mistakes. It's just about what you do after you make those mistakes. So anyways, and you know, I don't really tell you what happened, but I did do some stuff after these. That's how I'm able to still be able to tell you these stories. So anyways, Number three, basically I had just been with a girl. I was riding my bike home. I lived at 32nd Street in Van Buren here in East Phoenix, which is a very rough neighborhood, especially at that time. And I lived in very, very, down stuff. So basically, I'm riding my bike home. Cop pulls me over. This is where it gets funky. So basically, he pulls me over and he's like, "Hey, what's going on? What are you doing here?" He's like, "I live here." He looked at me because I'm white, in a different bar trying night in a later night. So usually, how the cop looks at that is you're either A, looking for drugs, or B, you're up to no good. That's what people don't realize. Cops are not trained to racially profile based upon, being what you are. It just depends where you are, what time, what you're doing, how you look. So they're there to look for things that stick out like sore thumbs. So if you feel that you are being profiled in some way, try to fit to whatever surroundings you're in. If you're in a richer environment, dress better. If you're in a poor environment, dress to the thing. Wear looser clothing. Do your thing, man. You got to think and move with the masses. You know what I mean? My boy always used to talk about you just got to play the part. It's about playing the part. That's what it's about. But anyways, back to this story. Cop runs my thing, and then somehow I had a warrant from like 6 years ago, and it actually not like 6 years ago from here, but like 6 years at that time. I was like 26 or 27. This was from like when I was 21, and basically, I got hit up and I had to go to jail, and I got out the next day. But really, the reason why this is number 3 isn't nor because of being in jail, because the jail part was actually super easy. I got out the next day. It was just how it all happened. It inconvenienced me at a job. I was like a normal working dude. I was out of the criminal life, and they just kind of nabbed me up, put me in jail. Luckily, they took my bike and put it in there. I was still an alcoholic at the time, so I was drinking a lot, so I wasn't perfect, but that's really that one. So number two is when I did 20 days, my first long spur in jail. I had to do 20 days where I checked myself in. I had deferred time, and I hadn't really been following everything on probation. I had a couple dirty UAs. This is after a time when I was on probation for marijuana, and I had some other crazy stuff. I think it was actually for the story that I told you in the first arrest, but I'd never really dealt with it. So I had to deal with it now, and I remember I had like 20 days deferred time. And that's right, I got a hit for another marijuana charge right after that one. So I got 2. I had just been dealing with the other one, and I got hit like 5 weeks after they picked me up on a warrant that actually quashed. And yeah, it was pretty crazy. But the judge was pretty mad, so they gave me 20 days deferred time. But the reason I say this is the second worst, because I've done 20 different times, but each time is really just because this is the first time I had to go through that first 7 days. Anybody really knows who's done some time, hard time, this is where it takes you from a beginning timer to a medium timer. Obviously, a long timer is somebody who's done years, but somebody who's, knows a little bit. I'd say I'm in the medium status because I've done months, but I wouldn't say I know everything, but I do understand the system a bit more than someone who doesn't. And basically, your first 7 days when you do a long time, it's hard because everything changes. Your whole mind changes. It takes a really long time. You have to adjust, create a new system, and that becomes more like your jail system. Whenever you get locked up in jail, you kind of have the way you handle your business and the way you do things. Luckily, I listened to my boys, and I followed some rules, and that kept me very safe when I was in there. I knew how to trade. I knew how to barter. I knew to stay away out of trouble, do activities, work out, read books. Those were the main things you do. You do all those things in jail, you're usually going to be all right. And I'm sure even up into prison. Really, what gets you put in trouble in jail is when you mouth off to other people. But yeah, really, I had it pretty easy this time. I actually got put in what we called the welfare tent in Tent City. And basically, you didn't have to work the whole 20 days. Normally, you have to work every single day in tents, or they roll you up and put you in the hole. I didn't have to, so things were pretty easy. I had commissary, and I got out. But it's number 2 because it was 20 days intense, and it sucked. So we're gonna have to probably cut it again, and I'm gonna have to go into the next story because the next story is actually kind of a long one. It actually relates to the story where I died, but this is gonna be about the jail time I did after I died a week after. So we'll cut here for now, and I'll come back and tell you the last part. Have a good one. I'll see you guys in a bit. I don't know why I'm saying goodbye. It's the same video. What up? Back for number 3. Yeah. So, final story. I saved one just for this because I knew it was going to be a little bit longer because this is a bit different of a story. So, what we're gonna give for the back part of this story is if you go and check out my earlier video, you can hear about how I literally died for like 3 or 4 minutes, and I was in a hospital bed, and it's crazy. And then literally a week after this happened, because I was on probation when all this had happened. So if you hear the story, basically next week, my PO calls me on the phone and says, "Hey Teddy, I need you to come down to the station." It's actually the day after the 4th of July. I remember this because I literally had just dropped a girl off that I partied with the night before, and I was drinking on the way to go see my PO. So it was a very crazy set of circumstances. I remember I was driving like my Blazer, and I was just it was crazy. So I go in, I go check in like normal, and as I'm going in, I sit down in her office, and as soon as I sit down, I look right across from me, and I see 2 dudes, and they just walk right up to me, and they say, "Theodore Greenberg, you're under arrest. We're U.S. Marshals, this and that. We're here to take you in custody." And then I found out that I had been violated. So first, I had to go into jail. I went normal thing, booked in, and because in Arizona at the time, I don't know if it's still like this, but you get unsentenced, where you got striped up and they put you in a thing. In Arizona, you used to get, I don't know if they do pink underwear and stripes anymore, but you used to get stripes and pink underwear because we have a new sheriff. But so basically they would put you in this place called Durango, or LBJ was a new one at the time. My luck was I got put in Durango, which is the older facility. And to make it worse, they put me in, if anybody knows, the warehouse. The warehouse is like 14 rows of bunks stacked 3 on top of each other, just goes back, and like 20 or 30 bunks, and it's 3 up high. So like 90 bunks per row and like 40, so you could fit a lot of guys in this place. It wasn't completely full. Usually from when I was in it was about halfway full, but it got crazy in there, really crazy in there. With the races and everything, it got to the point where every race had to come together against the illegals that were in there at the time. They're called paisas in county here in Arizona, which are Mexicans born in Mexico. If you're born here, they call you Chicano. If you're white, you're Wood. If you're black, Kinfolk. If you're Native American, Chief. If you fall in between, it just kind of goes who you best represent with. But that's here in Arizona. I don't know, and it may have changed. Like I said, it's been a while since I've been in the jail systems. But when I was in it, this is how it was. And you had to sit with your people or whatever whenever you ate. And in there, you just ate I just used to eat on my bunk because the day room and everything was right there, so you could do whatever you wanted more, and you were in there, and you only got 1 hour out of this warehouse a day, and that's if you woke up at 5 a.m. I never made it in the week I was there, and it was crazy. So basically, moving further, after that week, I got sentenced to another 30 days in county, and they put me in the tents and sentenced at that point. So this was the middle of the summertime, and it was horrible. I had to see my mom every week. Luckily I had just worked a lot before that, and I had some money, so I had some paychecks, so I had commissary while I was in there. But it was crazy, man. Anytime in the tents during the summertime, if you saw the flaps go down, you knew somebody was getting beat up. And what's really crazy is actually I was in there this time with somebody who recently was actually, shot to death by the Chandler police in the chest. This was actually the last time I saw this guy, and it's pretty crazy. So when we split off, I don't know what happened, and then I had my thing. This was actually my point where I started doing better. After this, I got out. I had a few more little things, but nothing where I went to jail like that, like this. This was like my last jail thing, and there's a lot of reasons why. Because even while I went to this, I had to go do my last 8 days, because I went and tried to help somebody while I was in there, and take across info to another inmate in the tents, because we had lockdown, and I ended up getting put inside the hole for my last 7 days, where you're 23 hours in. I was in the towers at the time, where you're literally in like a little room in the middle of summertime. You can feel yourself cooking. The whole time I was in there, even in the tents, you're cooking. You sleep in your boxers and stuff. You wake up in puddles of sweat. While I was in there, I had burns and rash burns all over my arms. It's crazy. It was really easy to get into fights in there. I didn't get in a fight again at this time. There's a lot of different crazy things. I had a really good job in there before I got rolled up. I was actually in the Durango kitchen, back from where I started, but there you get to eat good. So I was eating real good while I was in the tents. But, once I got rolled up and then I got stuck in the hole, is another story. You get 1 loaf of bread that you chop in half, and that's what you get throughout the day. The loaf has like slop and everything stuffed inside of it. You cut it in half, and that's what you eat throughout the day. You just like make little slices, and you just eat that, and that's it. That's all you get with a cup of water. And that's what I got for 7 days straight. and you're in a room with 2 other guys and like the size of a walk-in closet with 3 bunks. The pooper's right next to where you sleep, so you got random guys waking up random times taking shits because the food in there's horrible, so you just smell this nastiness while you're cooking inside of this thing. It's probably one of the most horrible. I'm glad the systems have changed out here. I know it's a lot different now, but when I was in there, it's intense. So like when you think about doing these things that you do in your life and you have these consequences, you think about these stories. When I look back at these stories and think about that I would do things like this and go through all these things and still keep doing what I was doing, it's insanity, man. It's crazy the kind of stuff you do to live that life. And we say it's all we got, man, but there's nothing that's harder than doing that, to be honest with you. When I gave up that life, it was the best decision I ever did. And then I gave up alcohol after that, and I just kind of changed my whole life around completely. And now I help other people and try to help other young guys who are in that same situation. I have a lot of friends who are breaking out of that situation. I have other friends I've also lost this year. One lost in a car accident who I was working really close with. He died. I saw him the day before he died. It was heartbreaking. I talked to him the day he died. He was supposed to hang out with me that night, and he died. He got in a car accident. So this was just less than a year ago. Man, like, so I do what I can, and I've had the other side. I could tell you a million different stories, and that's what this story time is about. I need to kind of get these things out of me, and I hope that other people who go through these things, that hold these kind of stories in, can help themselves, and that's why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I want other people to feel like they need to express themselves. A lot of us have built-in anger and sadness inside of us, and we need to get it out, and and I think it'll help us feel better. So I encourage anyone else to do the same thing, and I hope this helps anybody else who has been through things like this, that doesn't think that they can change themselves around and become a better person. Because you can always, you're gonna hear this a lot from me in my Buddhist practice. I'm a Buddhist Jew, but in my Buddhist practice, we have something. It's a word. It's called Honin Myo, which means from this moment. From this moment, you can change anything. So whatever happened before this moment means nothing, but this moment, you can change who you are. So and I did that at one point, a while ago. So I'm so happy I did it, and I'm so happy I get to tell these stories today. So this is the last part. Enjoy this little rap I made for you at the end, and have a good day. T Green Man, freestyle. Sometimes we put ourselves in bad situations, but it's about those choices when we make those bad situations. It defines what we become, and whether or not we change and become better to help those who struggle like us. I know what it's like to feel your pain. I know what it's like to have nothing inside your brain and all you want is gain. You see the pain, but you don't know the answer. So you get the homies on the block, and that's how you get the chance to enhance and take a stance as you straight advance. Grabbing them drugs, rolling with them thugs, trying to get them hands. Get behind them bars, building bands, say you can. Till the time the judge throw you in that jail, man. It ain't funny, the bars can lock you down, take away the king crown, have you took away from your town, nobody hear your sound, then you see your real friends. Do you got them letters coming in? Do you got the money to eat them feds for that commissary? Is it getting scary? Do you have the gang screaming at the sanctuary? That's the time where you really see the real truth. So I'm trying to get the message to the real youth. Tell you that the real thugs are the ones that get squashed like bugs and look like soft pugs. And I'ma be the top of the game. This is that real rap. Get that mind, get you stuck here in that real trap. Cause I'm trying to help and get you all on top and get the whole world raking so we all don't drop. I'm not thinking about myself or get my clout. I'm just trying to get my whole dang crew out the gutter. Lost too many homies, 2 got shot by the cops. The others got locked and others got hot. But I'm a rock, I even lost my brother to the drinking game. So I'm here to come and lift the people hurting like a crane. I see you falling down the drain. I'm here to hold out my hand so that we all can maintain. Stop looking at the shame. We all got our own blame, but we all got this stuff so we can use the real shame. Put it on ourselves, look in the mirror. Take away the fear so we can move fast, hitting hot in the gear. The end is near or the end is far. It's only in your own truth. You gotta take the star. Yo, T Green Man. Let's do it, man. These stories that'll tell you what you don't want to do. I've been there, man. I seen it. I lost plenty of friends. You know what I mean? I even lost my brother, to something I could have died from. Something that could have took me. Luckily I put it down. Or should I say fortunately. There's no such thing as luck. It's fortunate. It's all about the choices you make in your own life. That's how you decide what effects you get. So if you want better effects, make better choices. T Green, man.